I want to bring in CNN political commentators Van Jones and Alice Stewart, along with our chief national affairs correspondent, Jeff Zeleny. Jeff, Mitt Romney, as all of us know, has been an independent and unique voice here in Washington. What is the Senate losing with his retirement?
Wolf, I think it's losing a whole lot. Let's start with a true legislator, a true conservative, a true statesman. Mitt Romney really in one 6-year term, slightly shy of that, he's only in his 5th year, has done what many senators have not done for much longer. He's truly been a part of significant legislation, and he has broken from his party. He has shown true independence, and he really is one of the dying breed in the senator up on the Senate who has been an independent voice, who's willing to break with their party, particularly in the era of Donald Trump. And I think his words right there really said it all. Just thinking back to the arc of his time as Massachusetts governor, as a Republican in a liberal state, the architect of health care, to becoming the Republican presidential nominee in 2012, to his time in the Senate. He has had a remarkable career during a very changing Republican Party. Well, the Republican Party that he spoke of does not exist, at least for the moment. So we will see if it returns in a decade, as he told Manu there. But Wolf, I think it is a major loss, one in a series of serious legislators who simply are choosing to retire because of how the Senate is. But he's also saying it's time for a new generation of leaders, clearly sending a message to others in this town who certainly haven't heeded that call.
Let me bring in Alice Stewart. Alice, McKay Coppins released an excerpt from his upcoming biography of Mitt Romney, which reveals part of why Romney is taking this step. He writes this: "A very large portion of my party," Romney told me one day, "really doesn't believe in the Constitution. He'd realized this only recently," he said. Alice, how do you interpret that?
Look, I think the party and many of the people in the party do believe and support and defend the Constitution. What they do also do at the same time is believe Donald Trump when he stands up to and criticizes the Constitution. And there's a distinct difference. I think the party is a party standing up for the Constitution. Look, I listened to this, and to Jeff's point, I'm old enough to remember when Mitt Romney was the GOP nominee in 2012. He is a man of character and of integrity and of the policies that this party used to represent. It just goes to show how far we've come in these last few years. And look, looking at his announcement, there's the political and there's the personal. Politically, Mitt Romney and his opposition to Donald Trump and his constant and public criticism of populism have really put him out of step with the party, and that's unfortunate because it is good to have someone of his integrity and character in the U.S. Senate. But personally, I can completely understand his decision to look at this at his age, what age he would be if he were to run for re-election, and it's time for a new generation. And I applaud him for looking at this from the standpoint of, I've done my job and I'm going to step down. Unfortunately, too many people in Washington are looking at the longevity as opposed to their legacy they could leave behind if they were to get out at a more reasonable time.
Yeah, good point. You know, Van Jones, let me get your reaction to what Romney said about the potential 2024 rematch between Biden and Trump. Listen and watch this.
I think it would be a great thing if both President Biden and former President Trump were to stand aside and let their respective party pick someone in the next generation. President Biden, when he was running, said he was a transitional figure to the next generation. Well, time to transition.
So, Van, how do you respond?
Well, he's speaking for, I think, 67% of Americans who feel the same way. You know, and there is this kind of sense that we don't want to see this rematch. You've heard that over and over again, that the polls show that. But what I just want to say, you know, about Mitt Romney, if 10 years ago, you know, give or take, he was running against Barack Obama. We hated this guy. We thought this guy was terrible. We thought he was a blow-dried rich dude, out of touch, going to roll back everything we were trying to do. We fought like dogs to stop him from winning. And 10 years later, I'm please don't go, man. Like, we need you to stick around. Like, please. It gives you a sense of how much the Republican Party has changed. I would say deteriorated. And also, it gives you a sense that, you know, if you stick around long enough, people start to recognize, you know, you can have a different politics of the head, but the same politics of the heart. This guy cares about America. He cares about the principles, the values. He was a worthy opponent of President Obama. And I can't believe 10 years later I'm on CNN begging the guy not to go, but that just shows you how much things have changed.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time covering his run for the presidency in 2012, and it was impressive at the time. We watched it, and it's been impressive, his career in the Senate since then. Jeff, let me get to the topic of President Biden's reelection campaign. As all of us know by now, the Washington Post columnist David Ignatius has a new piece entitled, there you see it, President Biden should not run again in 2024. He writes in part this: if he and the Harris campaign together in 2024, I think Biden risks undoing his greatest achievement, which was stopping Trump. What do you see as the significance of this important column?
Well, if it is significant for this reason, because President Biden respects David Ignatius. He has heard this from many people, of course, the same argument. But this is different because it came from a place of admiration. In his column, he was writing about what a consequential president he believes President Biden has been, but raises the question that only President Biden can decide in his own mind. And he wanted to inject this into the bloodstream to have this conversation. Most Democrats are not having this conversation. Should President Biden be running again? So it's significant because of the byline, because of the well-respected nature of David Ignatius. The president respects him, and many people in the West Wing do as well, Wolf.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. A highly respected journalist. Guys, thank you very, very much.